Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm about to present you with my most recent webinar titled Ethically Sourced Textiles. I am Paula Selk, the person behind the scenes. I'm the founder and designer at Shilango. And before I continue with the presentation, I would like to tell you a little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and I've been living in Canada for the last 12 years. And when I landed in Canada, I really was starting to miss a lot of my Mexican heritage. And I needed gateway, a platform to really go back to my heritage, to really go back to discover who I was. And that's when Shilango was born. So let me talk to you about what Shilango is. We are an ethically and socially conscious brand, a brand devoted to sustainability in the fashion industry through culture, art, social justice, awareness, and collaboration. This is Shilango and our foundation. These are our values. And Shilango is aimed to really be an example of what sustainable and ethical fashion looks like today. We're going to learn a lot about ethically sourced textiles more specifically, so I hope that you really enjoy this journey with me. So these are our objectives today. At the end of this workshop, we're going to be able to answer these questions. What is the problem with fast fashion? The different kinds of textiles used in the fashion industry. What is an ethically sourced textile? We all need to know this today. How could our clothes purchases contribute to the well-being of garment workers? This is another current problem worldwide, and we're gonna learn how to be a part of the solution. How COVID, more specifically, has affected the people manufacturing for fast fashion brands. And as I said, we're gonna give you tactical solutions to really make a positive impact today. So first of all, before we continue on, we wanna learn about the type of textiles because this is our base for the rest of our workshop. So the textiles are really classified in two big categories. The first one is the natural textiles, and the other classification is synthetic textiles. As it works really very self-explanatory, the synthetics are man-made from petroleum-based fibers, meaning it's synthetic. On the contrary, the natural ones it comes from the ground, from a crop. So now that we know those two types of categories, we're gonna further explore. The natural textiles, the most commonly one used today is the cotton, which comes from a crop, from the land, from the ground. The other natural textile used in today's fashion is wool, which is an animal source. The next one is linen, which is a flax, is a type of seed, and the silk, coming directly from the silkworms. Those kind of like the most commonly ones that we know today in fashion. Now, if we go on to the synthetics kind, we have the polyester. And if you see there is an asterisk, because that is the most commonly used textile in today's fast fashion industry. And that's why both of them have an asterisk at the top. We're gonna learn more about these two guys later on the presentation. The next one is acrylic. The next one is spandex, you know, your yoga pants and all those beautiful leggings that we love. Well, this is a spandex and it's a synthetic fiber. The last one is rayon. So now that we know the foundation of what a textile is and that we have two kinds of textiles, I hope that you guys follow along and you really understand the content coming up. So why is fast fashion really not sustainable, or why is not ethical? Well, the first one is because it is designed with flaws. And what does that mean? Yes, our fast fashion, you know, our t-shirt, I'm gonna actually start with a t-shirt, you know, the $10 t-shirt that we buy, you know, at the really large retailer. So that $10 t-shirt that is made of conventional cotton has a design flaw. And what design flaw means is that it's meant to be disposable. Yes, plain and simple. Nobody tells you this, but this is the truth. Why is it so cheap? We're gonna further explore that. But this is a problem, and this is a textile problem. This is textile waste. Today in the world, we have so much textile waste, and it's because not being sustainably or ethically produced. So conventional cotton. Remember I told you we're gonna learn more about conventional cotton? This is the most widely known to produce our fast fashion clothing today. So to grow really conventional cotton, it uses an extraordinary amount of insecticides, pesticides, and dangerous and harmful chemicals to the environment where it's grown, meaning the land where it's grown gets terribly contaminated, and it's also bad for the human labor, meaning the farmers who harvest the cotton. So further along, people that live in that area where the cotton, the conventional cotton fields are, have been shown extremely amount of diseases because the water gets contaminated and they drink from that water. So how does that mean? How does that make sense? Yeah, there is studies today that people have shown signs of ADHD. Also, there is people with cancers and even birth defects. So conventional cotton uses a lot of amount of pesticides and chemicals that is gonna harm the environment, again, and is gonna harm the farmers, but also is gonna harm the people who wear these cotton t-shirts. Because our skin is the largest organ in our body, and it absorbs anything you put on it within 3 seconds. So that's the basics of conventional cotton. We're gonna continue learning why also cotton, conventional cotton for the $10 t-shirt that we buy is really bad for the environment because of water. We all know that water is a non-renewable source, okay? So I'm gonna give you clear examples here. Our $10 cotton shirt and denim. We all love denim too, right? So let's learn why conventional cotton and denim are not really our best, choices. To make one cotton t-shirt with conventional cotton takes up to 10 clean waters. The equivalent of 10 clean bathtubs in water. So it's just too much water that is wasted into grow the cotton to produce one single t-shirt. Now, if we go on the contrary, we compare with denim, it takes 36 bathtubs of water to produce any piece of linen, or the equivalent of 1,800 gallons of water to make one pair of jeans. So this is another problem with conventional cotton. So the next one is, remember we talk about polyester, and that is our synthetic textile. So polyester is frequently used for its wrinkle-free properties. Most polyester clothing on the market is cheap, poor quality, fast fashion, which will last few wears. Polyester is a synthetic petroleum-based fiber and is therefore made from a carbon-intensive, non-renewable resource. More than 7 billion barrels of oil are used to make polyester each year. It is non-biodegradable, and it will persist in the ecosystem even as it eventually breaks apart. So again, polyester, it's also known for its wrinkle-free properties, and that's why people prefer it, overall, because taking care of a natural fiber takes a little bit more of care. So there you go. What's another problem with synthetic fibers or textiles? There is a problem, and this is a micro problem called microfibers. These microfibers, in other words, are microparticulate amount of plastic. We all know that everything that is made of a petroleum base is basically plastic. It's basically, no good for the environment. It doesn't decompose naturally. So how microfibers show up in our environment when we wash those fibers. So we wash it and then we dry it. Every wash of that synthetic textile, in this case polyester, will actually get rid of some of these microfibers. And these microfibers today are being shown in wild life bellies, in fish, in all kinds of animal, sea animals that get access to the water. They have shown in laboratories that they have microfibers that come from those unethically or fast fashion garments. So I hope that you appreciate this information and you can further make more, investigation and research on this. Moving along, we're going to talk about carbon emissions because it's important to understand the effects that fast fashion has. So carbon emissions, I have a visual example for you. We're gonna learn about the cycle and the trip that cotton or polyester has to go through before landing on our backs. So here we're talking about cotton, conventional cotton. So the seeds, if you see, you can move along this map of the world map, and it has numbers. So the first stop is in Wisconsin, USA. This is where the cotton seeds are created. Then from there, the seeds are transported to Mississippi to grow and to harvest this cotton. From there, they travel all the way to Indonesia for the cotton to be spun. Then, after that, it goes to point number 4, to Bangladesh, where it gets made into actual textile. And from there, once the textile is done, the t-shirt, the $10 t-shirt is made in Bangladesh in very poor conditions for these people, and also at a fraction of a penny. And we're gonna learn more in a minute. From there, from Bangladesh, it goes transported back by ship to Colombia in the USA, where it's being packaged, labeled, and distributed through a major retailer. So you might question, why is it all this necessary, right? Yeah, this actually is a trip of 35,000 kilometers, which is about the same amount to do a trip around the world. So yes, it's not sustainable. It's a huge amount of carbon emissions for that $10 t-shirt that we buy. So I just want you to open up your mind and to really be knowledgeable and be aware of these facts. To further explore that carbon emissions, we're talking about the waste and the climate here. So more specifically, every household in Ontario sends 35 to 50 kilograms of textiles to landfill every year. We only donate 20% of that amount of kilograms of textiles or clothing we have in our closet. Now, from that amount, I need you to do the conscious thought that 1 kilogram of textile is equivalent of 4 kilograms of carbon emission, which means that we are a part of the problem of the global warming problems that we have in the world today, because through our purchases of unethically grown textiles and the amount of clothing that we buy every year, every season. So 5 million Ontario households, if we combine of that amount, it's about 960 million kilograms of carbon emissions. And that is only Ontario alone. So if you think about this worldwide, we have a big problem. Now, All of that is equivalent to more than 7 CN towers in weight a year. That's just to give you a clear vision of what that carbon emission might look like, okay? The other thing I want to really talk to you about is about ethics, because that's why my workshop is called Ethically Sourced Textiles. Why is fast fashion unethical? More specifically, ethics talks about human labor and the human resource. In this case, I have two clear examples. The woman on the left is a Bangladeshi woman and is protesting, I don't want to die for fashion. Going back a little bit, a couple of years back, there was a big tragedy in Rana Plaza in Bangladesh, where over 1,000 garment workers were killed in a building collapse. Why? Because they were rushing big orders from Western brands, people that, these brands that everybody loved and enjoyed because of their design, because they're affordable. Well, these people make these big orders, and they were actually working 20 hours a day and getting paid close to nothing from these big retailers. Why this is happening? Because in Bangladesh, they don't have any human resources or laws to protect these people. We are in the Western world, in US, in Canada, even in Mexico. We have human resources laws, and we have a lot of protection here, where these big brands cannot really take advantage of the people here. Unfortunately, and the reality is that in Bangladesh and these small developing countries in the Middle East don't have that privilege. So that's where all the nitty-gritty and black side of the fast fashion happens. These people died. Why? Because they were actually working in a building where it wasn't safe anymore to be in. The story actually tells us, and this happened in April in 2013. It hasn't happened that long ago. These people actually told their manufacturing manager that they saw cracks in the building. They disregarded this concern, and soon enough, the building collapsed, and killing thousands of garment workers that were working for Walmart Canada. They were working for Joe Fresh, to name a few. Now, what's the other problem and unethical problem with fast fashion in terms of human resources? I've been talking about the $10 t-shirt. So when you buy a $10 t-shirt, the reality is that the garment worker who actually sewed that t-shirt for you only got paid 20 cents for that $10 t-shirt that you buy probably every often, right? Because remember, that has a design flaw to be disposable. So you're gonna keep coming back for more. So this is a big problem with people. Human resources is the most important part, at least for Chilango. Moving forward, I want you to further make conscious when the pandemic hit. So people were already, I'm gonna go back a little bit. People, as it was before the pandemic hit it, was already being exploited, right? How can you make a living with 20 cents per shirt? They make hundreds a day, and it turns out to be about $35, equivalent of $35 a month, what they get paid for making the big brands cheap and poorly made t-shirts. So they're already not making even a living wage to begin with. So moving forward, COVID-19 hit it in March of 2020. And this is the most recent numbers that I found. Approximately 1,089 garment factories in Bangladesh have had orders worth roughly of 1.5 billion canceled due to the coronavirus outbreak. So this is the impact of COVID-19 on the people who makes our clothes. And this is just not fair at all, and it's totally unethical. There's so many brands and there's so much more that you can learn on this specific problem, and it's just not okay. So now moving forward, I'm gonna start showing you the solution, because if you've been following me, this is not a very pretty picture. We have solutions, tangible solutions that you can start switching and making today. We, the consumer, we are the one who hold a lot of power, more than maybe we even credit ourselves for. So we're gonna start focusing on ourselves as consumers, as purchasers. So moving forward, this is ethically sourced textiles. Let's shift our mindset into a slow fashion or ethical fashion. I'm gonna teach you guys what ethical fashion means and what a slow fashion means. First of all, it comes down to the design. Remember, the opposite is a design flaw. Ethical and a slow fashion actually is meant to last. Number one, through design. The preservation of local culture and traditions is kept. Ideally, that's what we are all aiming for. The production. The textiles are made with sustainable and renewable materials and the source. In this case, we're gonna be focusing on cotton, organic cotton, further along. Next, what is an ethically sourced textile? It has to do with working condition of the people that you work with, who is making that garment and in what conditions they are. We're aiming for a clean and safe work environment, free of exploitation and free of child labor. Ethically sourced textiles or fabrics is the same thing, is also ideally fairly traded, which means that the people who help you make and manufacture your clothing has the benefit of living wages. What does that mean? Living wages is that the bare minimum they are able to pay the day-to-day expenses, right? Food, shelter, medication, water, and your bills. That's what living wage means. And that alone will look different depending on where do you manufacture this ethically sourced textile. In Canada alone, for instance, we know that in Ontario, at least, the minimum wage is above $15 today. It will always change, but the same living wage that is in Ontario is not gonna be the same living wage that is in Bangladesh, or that is in United States, or that is in Mexico. But regardless of that, we have to make sure that the people are having at least living wages. That is what fair trade is too. The next one is the sustainable production. Again, I talked to you about the horrific event that happened in Bangladesh. They were not producing sustainably. These people were rushing because they were under a tight deadline to produce thousands and thousands of units, to launch for the spring and summer. And then for the next season, they were under a lot of pressure. So that was not sustainably made. Now, moving forward, you're looking that an ethically sourced textile is eco-friendly. What does that mean? That is free of insecticides, free of pesticides and chemically obtained dyes used to obtain the color of the fabric. Animal welfare. Remember what we're saying? So ethically sourced fabric ideally is organic and is vegan friendly. Further along, we're gonna discover what is an ethically sourced textile from the source perspective. An ethically sourced textile ideally should be organic cotton, like we talked about is a crop. Today you can find tencel. Tencel is a textile actually from wood. So that is another great alternative for eco-friendly textile or ethically sourced. The next one will be modal, is actually made of beech trees. Recycled polyester. There is such thing today already. Polyester that already is in landfills. We can recycle that polyester and produce a new design. Hemp, it's from the cannabis family, and actually hemp has a really good sturdy properties, so it will most likely last for a while. The next one will be bamboo, and bamboo is made from a pulp. Next one will be wool, from the sheep. Such an example will be cashmere. And then the repurpose. Overall repurpose from junk, garbage, or considered obsolete, I guess a great example of repurpose ethically sourced textile would be, whatever you can make from secondhand stores and then you can repurpose into something new. That is also ethically sourced textile. Now, organic cotton. This is where my area of expertise really relies, as Chilango specializes in organic cotton women's clothing. So, organic cotton, and I have some examples here of our different designs that we have, but organic cotton really, it's better for the environment. It's better for human health because it is free of pesticides. It's actually free of chemicals, but most importantly is the dyes. So we all need dyes to obtain the color of our clothing. And our clothing is actually ethically sourced too, because we only use natural materials to dye our clothing. And I'm gonna pick one here to just explain a little bit more. So this is one of our best sellers. This is our Campirana off shoulder, which is actually here on the picture on my slide. It's made of 100% organic cotton, and it's also dyed with natural materials. In this case, we use pink petal roses to actually dye this garment. In the fast fashion, they use actually heavy chemicals to dye, the $10 t-shirt that we're talking about. So it's better for the environment and it's better for human health. Why? Because when you don't when the farmers are not exposed to those pesticides, the farmers are also being looked after just by default. Also, when it lands on your back, you know that it's free of pesticides. So you don't have to be worried that you might get cancers or you might get all these other conditions that, they're being shown in other parts of the world also. Also, it's believed to be more comfortable because it's breathable and because it's free of pesticides. Also because the cotton itself is organic and by default is a healthy crop, meaning the particles of the cotton are not breaking down. So just for that alone, it's more comfortable and it's durable, something that we all need to be aware of. And it's better quality as a result because it doesn't have that design flaw, unlike the other options in the market. So you're gonna get a better quality clothing, and you're gonna get all the added benefits that are human health and that is environment. Moving along as per how to be part of the solution, we're gonna remember this with the 7 R's of ethical and sustainable fashion. The first one will be reduce. We're gonna reduce the amount of purchases that we make, ideally. Reduce the amount of fast fashion items that we buy, Maybe even reduce the amount of times that we wash our clothing. Reuse. What does reuse mean? Really just rewear what you already have in your closet. The best ethical fashion item that you will own today is what you already have, and that is by reusing and be an outfit repeater. The next one will be recycle. Yes, recycle is so important. Guys, please do not trash your clothes into the garbage. Today, there is actually companies like Value Village and the Salvation Army. They all have the capability to recycle textiles, even if you have that odd sock, right? We all have them. You can put that odd sock into your recycling bin and donate it. They have big machineries that actually shredded all of that, and they actually convert it into car insulation or car seats or like fillers for couches. So do not trash your towels, any clothing or any textile you have in your household. Do not put it in the garbage, please. Put it in your donation bin and they will be happy to take it for you. Next, the fourth R is research. And I cannot emphasize this enough. I'll give you a quick tip to do this on your own, on your spare time, especially when you're like really intriguing into buying that new design that your local designer or like your local brand actually just released. Simply type on Google, in this case, Chilango sustainability, and see what it comes up. Make sure that you read, make sure that you're able to track their sources, make sure that there is something about the sustainability practice that they're making. And this is the best way to do it. We have all the resources out there, just a simple search on Google. Once again, type the name of the clothing brand that you're really looking forward to purchase, followed by the word sustainability. Next, repair. This is so important, you know, going back to our ancestral times when we used to mend, you know, needle and thread, and really just repair what you already have. That little sock that, you know, has a little hole, but the rest of the sock is still good. Let's just mend that little hole. What about my pants? What about my top? We can all really start using those skills and repair what we already have. The next R will be repurpose. What does repurpose mean? It really is like a cycle, you know. Repurpose is turning something that it was already obsolete or a dead stock, for instance, and turn it into something new from an existing material already. That's what repurpose means. And the last R will be rent, you know. Nowadays you can actually rent, you know, any clothing that you can think of. There is amount of resources out there, companies that specialize on renting, you know, and then you use it for one time. Maybe you have something specific to go to an special event and you just need it for one day. You can rent it and return it. That's also part of the solution. Again, be an outfit repeater, because wearing clothes 50 times instead of 5, the fast fashion average reduces carbon emissions by 400% per item per year. So it's impressive the impact that we can really make when we start really being conscious about our consumption and about our day-to-day lifestyle. Finally, we all maybe want to buy new one day, right? Like, why not? There's 3 small questions that you're gonna have to ask yourself if you do need to buy new, because let's face it, sometimes, you know, for instance, for myself, I can never find jeans my size for secondhand stores or vintage stores. So I do need to do my research to buy jeans. So am I really going to use this? That's the first question you need to know. And then this graph shows you, you know, what happens next. Then how long will it last? And then is it eco-friendly, right? So these are the options, and then you're gonna come up with the solution. You yourself are capable to really understand if this is gonna be a good purchase for yourself, for the environment, and for the people behind the brand, or if it's not gonna be, you know, something that you need today. Another part of the solution, and this is one of my last slides, is to really, when you buy new or something that you already have in your closet, is to be actively engaged with the fashion industry online. This, for instance, is a campaign that started back in April 2013, since the Bangladesh workers were killed in Rana Plaza. This is Fashion Revolution, and it happens in April every year. And it has grown really organically ever since this strategy happened in Bangladesh. And really, this is calling all the fashion revolutionaries, all the people like you and I who are concerned with the environment, who are concerned with the human resources, and who is concerned about global warming and how we can be part of the solution and make the companies accountable for all this damage done. So simply, join online on Instagram. The who made my clothes. Technically, that's all you need to do. You need to take a picture of your favorite clothing brand and you show the label. Take a picture of yourself, a selfie or just a tripod, and tag on the description line who made my clothes, and tag the official Instagram page or Facebook page of that clothing brand. And hopefully you get an answer of showing you the people who are behind the scenes, who are the actual people who make your clothing. And you might not even aware of this, maybe you are, but the amount of response that this movement has created since 2013 up to today, it's amazing. We have made a great amount of improvement, but there is still more, so we need you to be a part of the solution by helping us with this. And that is it for me today. I really want to thank you for your attention and for joining me. And I really hope that you have what you need and you are able to make that next step and be a fashion revolutionary today, and to be able to really have a better knowledge of what an ethically sourced textile looks like today. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.